Today's story revolves around Jason, a man whose peaceful, predictable life was turned upside down when his wife, Laura, sought a life of freedom and self-discovery. Jason is 58, and Laura, his wife of over 30 years, is 55. They had 3 grown children, 20-somethings, who were just beginning to navigate adulthood. For most of their marriage, Jason and Laura had built a solid foundation of mutual respect, hard work, and love. But recently, something started to shift. Their life was no longer just about family and routine. Something deep within Laura had stirred, a longing for something more. Laura had always been independent, but over the past few years, she began getting more involved in political causes, particularly those centered around gender equality and activism. It wasn't a sudden transformation. Jason had noticed her slowly embracing ideas about women's rights, social justice, and personal empowerment. They would discuss things, sometimes heatedly, at the dinner table. Jason, raised in a more conservative household, often felt out of place when Laura spoke passionately about feminism or the oppression of women. He'd brush it off as a phase, thinking they were just topics she was exploring, perhaps influenced by her social circle of like-minded friends. To him, these were just political trends that didn't hold much weight in the real world. Jason's discomfort grew as Laura began spending more time away from home, attending conferences, protests, and book clubs focused on feminist literature. It wasn't that he disagreed with all of it, he just didn't understand why Laura seemed so absorbed by these issues. It was a far cry from the quiet, comfortable life they'd built together. One evening, after a long discussion about women's rights, Laura said something that struck him deeply. She looked at him, her expression serious, and said, "Jason, I've spent so many years taking care of everyone else. But what about me? What about my dreams?" Jason was taken aback. It wasn't the first time she'd mentioned feeling unfulfilled, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just about changing a career or finding a hobby. Laura was asking for something much bigger. Laura started to get distant. Jason could feel her slipping away, emotionally. She began talking about taking a solo vacation, a trip to somewhere remote and quiet, where she could reconnect with herself. Jason suggested they go to therapy, but Laura was insistent. She needed time alone. He reluctantly agreed, thinking it would pass. It wasn't the first time one of them had taken a break for personal reflection, but when she returned, he could tell something had fundamentally changed. Laura came back from her trip a week later, and she was unrecognizable. Her once long, flowing hair was cut short into a pixie cut, and there was an unfamiliar energy about her. She seemed lighter, almost ethereal, but also distant in a way that Jason didn't know how to navigate. When he greeted her at the door, she didn't hug him or even smile. Instead, she seemed preoccupied, as if she were seeing him for the first time. The warmth that had once defined their home felt cold and foreign. Over the following days, Laura continued to spend more time with her new circle of friends who she'd met during her trip. These were women who lived out loud, advocates for social change, boundary-pushing thinkers who spoke with intensity and urgency. Jason didn't understand them, but he was willing to let Laura explore these relationships. However, when she started coming home late after attending protests, Jason's worries grew. She was becoming more involved with causes that seemed radical to him, and he felt increasingly disconnected from her. One night, Jason decided to confront Laura. He needed to understand what was happening. They sat down and he said, "Laura, I don't know where we're headed, but you're changing and I'm not sure I can keep up." Laura didn't respond immediately. Instead, she just stared out the window as if the words weren't meant for her. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but firm. "I'm not happy, Jason. I feel like I've spent my entire life putting everyone else's needs before my own. And I don't want to do that anymore. I need to live for me, not for anyone else." The conversation escalated, and Jason suggested they seek marriage counseling, but Laura refused. It's not about our marriage, Jason. It's about me finding my own life. I want to experience freedom, and I can't do that while I'm tied to this life, to this marriage, and to everyone's expectations of me." Jason's heart sank. He had never expected things to come to this point. Laura had always been his rock, his partner in everything. But now, it felt as if he were losing her to something he couldn't even understand. The next day, Laura packed her bags and left. She rented a small apartment in the city, a far cry from the suburban home they had raised their children in. Jason was left to process everything. He'd heard of women going through midlife crises, but he never thought Laura would be one of them. Yet here she was, searching for something more, something he couldn't provide. Weeks passed, and Jason tried to adjust to life without Laura. He focused on work, spent time with his children, and even began taking up hobbies he had abandoned years ago. But every evening, he would return to an empty home, and the silence felt suffocating. He couldn't help but think about all the years they had spent together, all the memories they had built. Laura had been so certain that she needed to leave. But what about him? What was left for him? It wasn't long before Laura's social media presence grew. She started posting videos on Instagram and TikTok, sharing her journey of self-discovery. She documented her transformation, her search for joy, and her new life in the city. Jason was both fascinated and horrified by her posts. In one particularly eye-opening video, Laura said, "You know, it's funny. I used to think that staying in a marriage was what you were supposed to do, that it was the right thing. But now I realize I was just holding myself back. I was always so afraid of what others would think if I left. But now I see the truth. I had to let go of the past to live fully." Jason's stomach twisted when he saw that video. She wasn't just talking about finding herself. She was preaching about divorce as the key to freedom. It was almost as if she were encouraging women to leave their families, their marriages, to seek happiness outside of what they knew. He knew Laura had struggled with feeling unfulfilled, but this was something different. This was a woman who had completely embraced a new identity, one that no longer included him. He felt a deep sadness, but also anger. He wanted to confront her, to make her understand the pain she was causing, but she was unreachable. Every time he tried to contact her, she either didn't respond or replied with a curt message about her new life. A few weeks later, Jason received a letter, divorce papers. Laura had already filed, and there was no coming back. He was blindsided. After all those years, after building a life together, Laura had made her decision. She was leaving, and there was no turning back. He tried to reach out, to understand what had led to this. But Laura was firm in her resolve. She told him, "I've made my choice, Jason. This is my life now. I'm finally free." Jason's heart shattered as he realized that the woman he had loved for over 3 decades was gone, not just physically but emotionally. She had found something, or someone, else, and he no longer fit into her world. Jason's children were equally confused and hurt. They didn't understand why their mother had left, and when they tried to speak to her, she shut them out as well. But Jason knew there was no use in forcing her to come back. She had made her choice, and now it was time for him to figure out what his life would look like without her. He focused on rebuilding. He started dating again, trying to fill the void left by Laura, and it wasn't long before he met someone new, Anna, a woman in her early 40s, vibrant and full of life. She was everything Laura was not, open, warm, and eager to create a future with him. Jason felt alive again, something he hadn't experienced in a long time. But as his relationship with Anna grew, Jason couldn't help but think about Laura. He had tried to move on, but there were moments when her absence hit him like a wave. Months later, Jason made a decision. He and Anna would take a trip with his children, a chance for everyone to reconnect, to find some sort of new normal. But when Jason reached out to Laura to invite her, he was met with hesitation. She wasn't sure if she was ready to face him or meet Anna, but eventually she agreed. Jason was both nervous and excited. This trip would be a turning point. One way or another, he would have to confront the past and accept that Laura's chapter in his life was over. When they met, it was awkward at first. Laura arrived alone, her appearance more polished than Jason remembered, but her eyes carried a look of uncertainty. When he introduced her to Anna, he could see Laura's discomfort. She was no longer the woman who had stood by his side for years. She was a stranger, someone who had chosen her path no matter the cost. As the days passed, Jason felt the tension between them simmer. Laura tried to mask her emotions, but it was clear that she was struggling to accept the reality of Jason's new life. And for Jason, it was hard not to enjoy the discomfort he saw on her face. After all, she had made her choices, and now it was his turn to live his. As the trip progressed, Jason began to feel a sense of closure. He wasn't angry anymore. He was simply moving forward, no longer tethered to a past that no longer served him. But Laura, she was a different story. The video she posted after the trip would prove to be the catalyst for something bigger, something Jason wasn't prepared for. After the trip, everything began to unravel for Laura. Jason had seen her discomfort during the entire journey, especially when she realized how much he had moved on. The tension between them was palpable. She had come to the trip with hopes of reconciling or perhaps finding some way to insert herself back into Jason's life. But instead, she found herself confronted with a reality she wasn't prepared for. Jason wasn't waiting for her to return. He had a new life now, one that didn't include her. Laura's discomfort didn't go unnoticed by anyone, but Jason didn't care. He had long since accepted that she had chosen her own path, one that left him behind. But he could see the cracks in her facade now. The bravado she had put on over the past year seemed to be wearing thin. Jason, for the first time in months, allowed himself a small, almost vindictive sense of satisfaction. He was finally free, while Laura was stuck in the consequences of her own decisions. A few days after returning from the trip, Jason was sitting with Anna when his phone buzzed. It was a new message from Laura. He hesitated before opening it, but curiosity got the better of him. The message was long, filled with self-pity and anger. Laura was upset, blaming him for everything that had gone wrong in their marriage. She claimed that he had been emotionally distant for years, that he had never truly understood her need for independence, and now she was struggling to cope with her own choices. The worst part, however, was how she tried to twist the situation. She blamed him for not stopping her from leaving. "You've always been so stubborn, Jason," she wrote, "always thinking you could just control everything. Well, now I see what I've lost. But maybe it's not too late to fix things. If you'd just give me a chance, we can start over." Jason's first reaction was anger. How dare she try to make him feel guilty? She had left him, filed for divorce, and now, just when things were finally settling into place, she wanted to come back? He could already hear the self-justifying tone in her words, as if the entire affair was his fault. He felt a surge of frustration, but this time, it wasn't about the betrayal. It was about the audacity of her message. She had made her choice, and now, she was trying to rewrite history. Jason sat there for a moment, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, contemplating his response. But then an idea began to form, a plan, a way to make her feel what he had felt all these months. He realized that the only way to make her understand the gravity of her actions, to make her experience the loss the way he had, was to strike back. Not with anger, but with a carefully calculated cruelty. He decided to ignore her message completely. He would not give her the satisfaction of a response. Instead, he turned to Anna, telling her that he had no intention of letting Laura back into his life. Anna nodded, understanding his stance. But Jason wasn't finished. He had been too quiet for too long. The next morning, Jason posted a picture on his social media, a picture of him and Anna, enjoying a day out in the city. It was a simple post, but the caption spoke volumes. "It's been a journey, but I'm finally where I need to be. Here's to new beginnings and the people who make life worth living." He knew that Laura would see it. She had always kept tabs on him through social media. The post was like a dagger, casually flaunting the happiness he had found with someone else, a happiness she had never thought he would find after she left. Sure enough, within hours, Laura's response came. A post of her own. The tone of her video was different than anything she had shared before. It was raw, vulnerable, and tinged with desperation. In it, she tearfully confessed that she had been struggling with the aftermath of her decisions. She spoke of regret, about how she missed her family, and how everything she had tried to build after their divorce had fallen apart. "I thought I was free, but now I see that freedom came with a price," she said in the video. "I pushed away the people who loved me, and now I don't know who I am anymore." Jason watched the video without emotion. He could hear the desperation in her voice, but he couldn't bring himself to feel sorry for her. This was the same woman who had called their marriage stagnant, the woman who had torn their family apart in pursuit of some idealized version of freedom. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. But Jason wasn't done yet. He wanted to make sure that Laura understood the full extent of her mistakes. Over the next few days, he took to social media again, but this time, he didn't just post about his happiness with Anna. No, Jason took it further. He began posting pictures of his family, pictures of him with his children, pictures of the trips they'd taken, the moments they shared, all the things Laura had walked away from. The message was clear. Life goes on, and it's better than ever. He didn't care if it hurt her. She had hurt him enough. The final straw came when Jason received a call from his daughter, Claire. She sounded frantic, her voice shaking. "Dad, have you seen the latest video from Mom?" she asked. Jason had just seen it. Laura had posted yet another video, this one more erratic than the last. It was a direct attack on him. She claimed that Jason had moved on too quickly and that he had betrayed her in the worst way possible. She accused him of being heartless, of never truly loving her, and of throwing away everything they had worked for. But it wasn't just that. Laura went on to say that Jason's new relationship with Anna was nothing more than a rebound, that he was using Anna to fill the void she had left. "Jason doesn't care about me," Laura said, her voice trembling with anger. "He never did. He just wants to make me feel small, to make me feel like I don't matter. Well, guess what, Jason? I matter. I always have. And one day, you'll realize what you've lost." Jason watched the video, and a cold smile spread across his face. He didn't need to react emotionally anymore. He had already won. He had finally become the person Laura had left behind, the one who didn't need her, the one who could stand tall and move forward without her. That night, Jason received a message from his lawyer. It was time for the final divorce settlement. Laura had requested a significant financial settlement, claiming that she was struggling to make ends meet and that Jason owed her more for the years they had spent together. Jason felt his blood boil. The audacity. She had everything she wanted: the apartment, the freedom, the money. But she still couldn't let go. He had already given her more than enough in the settlement, but this time, Jason wasn't willing to let it slide. He consulted his lawyer, who told him there was a legal loophole in the way the settlement was structured. Laura hadn't met the terms required for the final payment. With a cold efficiency, Jason decided to cut off her last claim to any financial support. The paperwork was filed, and just like that, Laura's last vestige of security was stripped away. She called him in a panic, demanding an explanation. Jason didn't pick up the phone. He didn't need to. Days later, Laura posted yet another video. This time it was different. Her face was swollen from crying, her eyes red with exhaustion. "I don't know what I did wrong," she said, voice barely a whisper. "I just wanted to be happy. But now, I'm alone. And it hurts so much." Jason didn't watch the video. He didn't need to. He had already won. She had chosen her freedom, and now she had to live with it. As for Jason, he and Anna continued their relationship, stronger than ever. They moved forward with their lives, embracing the future. The past was behind him now. There was no looking back.